David Raskin, a student in high school, is conducting an experiment with his pals Quinn Goldberg and Adam Loeb while his sister Christina is filming it. The advertisement is for a scholarship to MIT. David displays a homemade airplane that he can fly by holding a material between his fingers. The gang releases the craft outside, when someone calls David's phone, jamming Quinn's laptop signal to connect with the craft. The aircraft crashes to the ground as it falls. David gets an envelope from MIT a few weeks later. He gathers with Christina and their mom Kathy, along with Adam and Quinn, to open it. David is accepted to MIT, but is disappointed to learn that he will only receive $5,000 as opposed to the anticipated $45,000. In front of his entire class, Quinn fails a chemistry exam. The top bitch of the school, Sarah Nathan, bullies Christina. We discover that David has a crush on Jessie Pierce at school. David and Christina learn that their mom is attempting to sell the house when they get home. David tries to talk her mom out of it, but she insists that they need the money for his MIT. Later, David looks through the attic. When Christina arrives upstairs, they discover a videotape of David's 7th birthday celebration. It was the final day the two saw their father Ben, before he was killed in a vehicle accident. As the two watch the footage, David notices something odd: he can actually be seen in the video at his current age. Adam and Quinn are both shocked when he shows them the recording. Back at school, Christina talks about the Lollapalooza event that they missed with her friends, while David and the gang are still talking about the videotape. David becomes fixated on the video and picks up on details like the blue stain on his shirt and the fact that he is clutching keys on a key chain with a ballerina figure. David realizes that he is actually clutching Jessie's bag when he checks inside his own. He approaches her to give it back while making uncomfortable attempts to speak with her. He returns the bag and she congratulates him on getting into MIT. While reenacting David's position in the video, the group enters David's basement and they find a hidden hatch on the floor that conceals the specifications for a time machine. The boys get excited and begin to gather the materials they need to build it. After a few failed tests, they start stealing hydrogen canisters from the school to properly charge their batteries. Although they are able to turn on a device that makes objects in the basement levitate, the batteries continue to short-circuit. There was a party taking place next door and David just got an idea. When Jessie arrives, David talks her into parking her vehicle in their driveway. The group connects their cable to the battery of Christina's car to conduct their next experiment, which involves trying to send the red toy Corvette across time. As soon as Jessie realizes what they're doing to her car, they turn on the machine. As the room starts to tremble and objects begin to float, the power suddenly goes out throughout the entire street. When the lights go back on, the gang sees that the toy car did go through time, and is somehow fused to the wall. They saw that the GoPro they had mounted to the car was already recording them as they were setting up the equipment earlier. Jessie joins the gang as they show her David's birthday video and prove to her what they can do. They gather that night in the neighborhood and make an effort to return to the previous evening. They turn on the device and travel across time. The group is temporarily rendered deaf and confused. They immediately flee to Quinn's house, where Quinn had slept the night before. Quinn draws a smiley face on past Quinn's nape, which also appears on Quinn's. Past Quinn then rolls over and wakes up and sees his future self. This causes a feedback loop, and the two of them start to vanish. The group immediately runs out of there and then excitedly jump for the fact that they successfully time jumped. A dog then chases them. They go back to the present time and discover that they accidentally took the dog with them. They discover a large number of lost dog flyers that weren't there previously as they travel around the streets. They realized they had changed their timeline and returns the dog to its owner. The group decides to use their newly discovered power for personal concerns as long as they can all time jump together as they begin to envision the possibilities of it. Quinn uses it until he finally gets it right to ace his chemistry test. Christina uses it to catch Sarah just after she accidentally spills past Christina's drink, only for future Christina to show up and purposely spill drinks on Sarah, humiliating her and saying, "I'm everywhere, bitch." Adam then has the group time jump so they can win the lottery. However, he only got 5 out of the 6 numbers right because he wrote 44 instead of 49, and as a result, they only make $1.8 million after taxes. Quinn continues to utilize the funds to purchase a stylish car for himself and brings a line of food trucks to the school. David summons the group to a meeting place behind the bleachers during class. They jump to 3 months ago to attend Lollapalooza. They attend concerts by their favorite bands and even acquire VIP credentials, after purchasing them on eBay at a bargain in the present, that allow them to hang out with the band backstage. The group is having the time of their lives. They celebrate all day while hanging out on water slides. Before the day is finished, David goes over to Jessie as she checks out the wall that states, "Before the world ends," with a number of things people would do. Jessie sends huge signals to David, like going to the statement that reads, "Before the world dies, I want to fall in love." David misses the chance to make his move, and they later jump back to the present, where only 41 seconds passed. David, discouraged by his failure, returns to Lollapalooza by himself and approaches Jessie. After kissing her, he goes back to the present. When he calls Jessie from his room, he discovers that her phone is on his desk. She only has a towel on when she steps out of the restroom. David asks her if they had sex and she answers yes. The two starts dating, but when they arrive at school, David starts to notice strange occurrences. Justin, the basketball team's captain, has a broken leg. Sarah sobs as she passes David. Titans basketball, better luck next year, is written on a banner that is hanging there. David learns from Adam and Quinn after school that a plane catastrophe claimed the lives of 77 people, including Sarah's father, who was the pilot. The boys believe that this, along with the basketball team's loss of the championship, is the result of their time jumping. They insist that jumping back to go to Lollapalooza was a mistake and they should undo it. David is hesitant because undoing Lollapalooza means Jessie won't be her girlfriend anymore. The group decides to have a meeting later that night. David heads to the meeting place first, but Adam arrives sooner than expected. He admits to Adam that he jumped alone so he could get a second chance on Jessie, and that they only need to prevent Justin from breaking his leg to fix the time ripple that they caused. Despite Adam telling him not to do it again, David jumps back alone to the night of the party. After his past self and the others kill the power when they jumped Christina's toy car, David runs into the street and pushes Justin out of the path of a car to prevent him from breaking his leg. He is hailed as a hero by the other partygoers. David returns to the present and observes that the squad not only won the title, but also that the plane landed without incident. But after the basketball game, an incident sends Adam to the hospital. David sprints home while attempting to think of a way to protect Adam from harm. He gets the machine ready when Jessie comes into the basement. They both jump through time, and David is compelled to explain to her that he jumped alone to travel back in time to make his move on her. Jessie, who has been hurt, acknowledges that she has liked David ever since she first met him and that she would use the machine to travel in time to meet him earlier. When Jessie's former self sees her, it causes a feedback loop and she disappears into thin air, leaving only her vehicle keys behind, which David takes. David thinks that the only way to stop the machine from ever being created is to go all the way back to the day he was 7 years old. Quinn goes to his home after Jessie goes missing. David apologizes for his error and goes on to explain everything to him. The police then arrive at David's house because they believe he was responsible for Jessie's disappearance. David runs away from his house, arrives at the school, and grabs one more hydrogen canister. He is able to fuel the machine just as the police storm in, seconds before he jumps. David returns home after traveling backward 10 years. Right where the video had originally caught him, he recognizes himself in the mirror. He goes down to the basement with his father, where they meet. When Ben sees his son, he he realizes he made the machine function. He is informed by David that there are no do-overs and that they must quit. After exchanging hugs, Ben departs. David gathers and burns every part of the time machine. His body flickers over and over till he disappears. David is then back in the present, looking in the attic where Christina finds him. They find their dad's video camera, but this time there are two of them, and one has footage of what they were doing and saying mere minutes ago. The gang is at school during the moment when David sees he has Jesse's bag. He goes over to give it to her with more confidence, and he repeats a statement that Jesse made to him the first time they spoke. David leans in and adds, "This is going to sound insane, but I think we're about to change the world." If you enjoyed this video, please make sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a new release.